This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, July 14th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
More flooding in the wake of catastrophe in Texas.
They were just killed, and counselors were killed.
I'm Clayton Neville.
1 year after an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, changes at the Secret Service and a reflective president. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
On Wall Street, investors rattled over the weekend by new tariff threats. President Trump eyeing the EU and Mexico. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
2 people dead after a traffic stop turns into a carjacking. A church shooting in Kentucky. Mixed reviews from some members of Congress who tour Alligator Alcatraz. And the U.S. agrees to weaponize Ukraine. We'll have those stories. All ahead on America in the Morning. Weekend rains meant more flooding threats in the hill country of Texas. Recovery efforts continue from catastrophic flooding that claimed the lives of at least 120 people. An update from Texas with our Clayton Neville.
Raging rivers in the northern part of the Texas hill country over the weekend. According to Governor Greg Abbott, the state conducting rescues in San Saba and Lampasas. Other nearby counties were under evacuations as residents moved to higher ground. This just over a week after flooding ripped through the Kerrville area of Texas, leaving death and destruction in its wake.
But we're working with Texas. We're working with a great governor. Greg Abbott's doing a great job.
President Trump was on Fox's My View with Lara Trump days after he was on the ground in Texas.
So sad to see this one in particular because so many young, beautiful young kids, mostly girls, they were just killed, and counselors were killed.
The loss at Camp Mystic, an all-girls camp, still very much on the minds of Texans and Americans in general. So are ways to avoid similar devastation in the future.
We're also taking historic action to ensure that such a nightmare never happens again. And we're going to look and see how can a thing like this, they could say it's 100-year. Somebody said it's a 500-year event. It doesn't. We're not going to let a thing like this happen.
The political finger-pointing surrounds weather alerts ahead of the floods. Some Democrats blame Trump administration cuts to agencies like the National Weather Service.
The fact that Democrats are politicizing this while people are still looking for their babies, they're still looking for their family members, I think is absolutely despicable. Homeland
Security Secretary Kristi Noem appeared on NBC's Meet the Press, and she was asked about reports that thousands of calls from flood victims to FEMA call centers went unanswered because federal contracts weren't renewed.
Those contracts were in place. Nobody,
it didn't take 5 days.
No employees were off of work. Every one of them was answering calls. So false reporting, fake news, and it's discouraging. It's discouraging that during this time when we have such a loss of life and so many people's lives have turned upside down, that people are playing politics with this because the response time was immediate. And if you talk to anyone in Texas that was there, that was a part of this operation, they would say the federal government and President Trump immediately responded.
On the ground in Texas, the weekend rain threats and flooding in the northern hill country led to suspended search and rescue efforts. Hundreds still without closure as the search for the missing continues into another week. In Texas, I'm Clayton Neville.
Sunday marked the 1-year anniversary of an armed sniper attempting to assassinate then-candidate Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. John Stolnis on what's happened since and changes at the Secret Service in the wake of the shooting.
Well, it was unforgettable. I didn't know exactly what was going on. I got whacked. There's no question about that.
In an interview with his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, on Fox News, the president reflecting back on a day when he nearly lost his life to an assassin's bullet.
Fortunately, got down quickly, and people were screaming, and I got down quickly, fortunately, because I think they shot 8 bullets. Then one got me, and one got another one, and one got another one, and one killed Corey, the firefighter. Great guy.
The Associated Press wrote this weekend that close aides and friends say they see a different president since the shooting, one who is, quote, more attentive to his friends And the president has openly said he believes God saved him for a purpose that day. A Senate committee investigating the shooting found multiple instances of breakdowns within the Secret Service. Republican Senator Rand Paul on CBS's Face the Nation.
So it was a cascade of errors. It was just one error after another. When we talked to the people in charge of security, everybody pointed a finger at someone else. We said, who was responsible for that roof? The roof where the assassin lay with a direct sight line. Nobody wanted responsibility. Everybody said it was somebody else.
Paul says the Secret Service did not act on direct threats or requests made for that day.
The suspicious person with the rangefinder who became the shooter, many times he was spotted by police with suspicion. That should have been enough to take the president off the stage.
The report also accuses then Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle of falsely testifying to Congress that, quote, no USSS asset requests were denied for the Butler rally. She resigned shortly after that congressional hearing last year. The agency issued its own report on changes made since the shooting. They say they've implemented 21 of the 46 recommendations made by oversight committees, specifically addressing the danger from drones, but also improving communication and updating training. John Stolnis, Washington.
2 killed in Kentucky shooting rampage. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy has the Monday forecast on America in the Morning.
There has been a lot of focus on drenching rainfall lately, and even this past weekend, we watched closely in Texas and Oklahoma as heavier thunderstorms once again developed through the region, especially around central Texas into eastern Oklahoma, where many places reported more than 4 inches of rainfall. There will be additional thunderstorms across these same areas today and continuing into southern Missouri, Arkansas, and the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. But the heavier rain should be localized and limit any widespread concerns. The area in which thunderstorms could become heavier with more widespread flash flooding will be in the northeast as a weak frontal system moves into the area, and this will activate thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon and evening, with a significant amount of rainfall possible from as far north as Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, southward through the rest of New England, into southeast New York, eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and continuing into the middle Atlantic from Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, as well as northern North Carolina. These storms will have the potential to produce flash flooding along with some stronger wind gusts. A few heavier storms will also form across Florida with the risk of flash flooding as well. Meanwhile, another system coming out of Canada will lead to some showers and gusty thunderstorms through northern Montana into North Dakota into Minnesota late today and tonight. These storms will have the potential for damaging winds and hail along with some heavier rainfall, and cooler weather will follow that system on Tuesday across these northern states. It will be dry through the rest of the northern plain states, South Dakota, into Kansas, eastward to Wisconsin and Michigan. That's the weather across America. It's going to be quite warm in Atlanta, Georgia today with plenty of sun and a high of 95. Boise, Idaho is going to have plenty of sun and a high of 101. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Man goes on a shooting rampage in Kentucky yesterday. State police report 2 people were killed among the 4 hit by gunfire. Fox News is reporting that the shooting spree started just before noon at Lexington's airport when a state trooper pulled the suspect over for a license plate reader alert. The driver opened fire, injuring the trooper. The suspect took off and carjacked a vehicle, drove 15 miles to the Richmond Road Baptist Church in Lexington, where the gunman opened fire at the church, where 2 women, including one in her 70s, were killed. Members of Congress toured the holding facility, now known as Alligator Alcatraz, and returned with mixed reviews. Correspondent Julie Walker reports the Trump administration is in discussions to open more ICE detention centers.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, while at an ICE event in Florida, says any environmental issues at Alligator Alcatraz have been addressed and they want to open even more detention centers around the country.
I'm having ongoing conversations with 5 other governors about facilities that they may have.
This comes at the same time lawmakers from both parties were getting a state-arranged tour of the 3,000-bed detention center built on an isolated airstrip surrounded by swampland, where detainees and advocates tell the Associated Press conditions are awful, with worm-infested food, overflowing toilets, mosquitoes, and air conditioning that shuts off.
Alligator Alcatraz is held to the same standards that all federal facilities are. Any issues that were there have been addressed. It's a fantastic resource for us to be able to utilize.
I'm Julie Walker.
In sports, the best and brightest of the American League and National League square off tomorrow night for baseball's All-Star Game. Concerns coffee prices will skyrocket, Trump's new tariff threats, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Investors are looking to rebuild some of their losses on Wall Street from this past Friday. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with the Monday Report.
Wall Street opens this morning after a down day for stocks on Friday. Investors rattled by President Trump's tariff threats aimed at Canada and Brazil. And then over the weekend, new threatened tariffs against the European Union and Mexico. The EU collectively sells more to the U.S. than any single country. Tomorrow, the big banks will report quarterly results and earnings season begins.
Yes, we have earnings coming up this week. The bar has really been lowered quite a bit. I don't think there's necessarily a reason to feel as if there's going to be lots new to worry about in the earnings reports.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Investors scratching their heads on new tariffs threatened on Canadian goods.
35% on imports from Canada, which, by the way, the second largest U.S. trading partner and the largest buyer of American goods last year. Now, an administration official did tell me that the exemptions currently in place for USMCA compliant goods likely will remain, as will the lower 10% tariff for energy imports. That would soften this a little bit, but still a significant escalation from the 25% level where it is now. I was told that decision is not final.
CNBC's Megan Casella. Meantime, the president's newly threatened higher tariffs on goods coming in from Brazil could mean a higher price for your cup of joe. The U.S. gets most of its coffee from Brazil.
Brazil has risen in importance as a coffee exporter to the United States. It's the largest in coffee shops. You're going to really find other ways and look for other markets to really help import from. But because Brazil is such a large piece of this, it's going to be hard to really circumvent the issue in its entirety if it were to be fully implemented.
TD Cowen's Andrew Charles on CNBC. Delta Airlines giving investors exactly what they want. Capacity cuts. This means the airline is reducing available seats. It's canceling flights on certain routes and switching to smaller planes on others to prop up ticket prices as demand falls.
You have the impact that we've seen from the tariff battles and all the global trade wars that are being waged. There's been a big pullback over the start of the year.
Main cabin is down 5%.
Main cabin is down 5%, and that's where you have your most price-sensitive customers. Remember, we got hit with this in the early part of the year. We weren't really in position to address it, given that we had our peak booking and our peak summer season coming up. But what you'll see post mid-August is you'll see industry capacity, particularly in the main cabin domestically, coming down significantly.
Delta CEO Ed Bastian on CNBC with CNBC's Phil LeBeau. On today's watch list, no big economic or earnings reports, but earnings season begins tomorrow. Major League Baseball's Home Run Derby is tonight ahead of tomorrow night's All-Star Game.
Thank you. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. U.S. takes action as Trump tires over Putin's stalling. When America in the Morning returns after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Normally, a person getting a new pickup truck is not news unless the man is a deacon who used his own vehicle to stop a person who was about to open fire at parishioners at his church. Correspondent Donna Warder reports on a thank you to that Michigan man who helped stop a church mass shooting.
Church Deacon Richard Pryor was called a hero when he used his pickup truck to ram an armed man who was about to enter the Cross Point Community Church in Wayne, Michigan on June 22nd. Police say the gunman fired shots at Pryor's vehicle as he approached the church and shot a person in the leg. That's when Pryor's truck knocked the gunman to the ground and the gunman was fatally shot by church security. Pryor's 2018 Ford F-150 pickup was destroyed in the process. So this week...
Thank you again. Yeah, thank you.
Pryor was gifted a 2-year lease on a $70,000 2025 Ford F-150 pickup by a local dealership.
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all.
We thought the perfect way to give back to Richard was to be able to gift him this brand new 2025 F-150 Power Boost.
Dealership owner Matthew Demmer.
Due to Richard's quick actions and thinking, along with some other security with the church, that threat was eliminated. Unfortunately, in the process for Richard, his truck was destroyed. And that's where we felt it was time for us to step in.
Pryor says he's grateful.
There was a lot of hurt and a lot of lives were affected by this, but just grateful for the Lord's protection.
I'm Donna Warder.
President Trump, as early as this morning, is expected to announce an aggressive plan to arm Ukraine. Axios is reporting that the president's plan will be to include offensive weapons, while Reuters is reporting that the package will also include Patriot air defense systems. It's believed the European Union will reimburse the United States for the anti-missile Patriot system. Trump, in the past 2 weeks, has grown disenchanted with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, who has resisted U.S. efforts to negotiate a ceasefire with Ukraine. America in the Morning for Monday, July 14th, 2025, is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, remembering the assassination attempt on Donald Trump 1 year ago and a bizarre turn in the Air India crash investigation.
For many of President Trump's most vocal supporters...
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
The answer is yes. I'm Richard Johnson.
A historic landmark destroyed by wildfire near the Grand Canyon. I'm Clayton Neville.
A Qatar airbase was hit with an Iranian ballistic missile during the June attack. I'm Hayat Panjwani.
Google slashes their prices, but only for Uncle Sam. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Superman and a huge cast of comic book characters topped the box office this weekend. I'm Kevin Carr.
All ahead on America in the Morning. The nation's forecast this Monday on America in the Morning. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Most areas in the country are going to have temperatures near or above the historical average today, but some relief is on the way later this week. A system will be moving out of Canada, leading to some showers and gusty thunderstorms through northern Montana into North Dakota and Minnesota late today and tonight. These storms will have the potential for damaging winds, hail, along with some heavier rainfall. It is this feature that will provide the cooler weather to follow through the northern states tomorrow and then continuing southward through midweek. It is going to be dry through the rest of the plains from South Dakota into Kansas and eastward to Wisconsin and Michigan, as well as Iowa and northern Illinois. It will become very warm to hot with highs in the upper 80s and 90s, even a few 100s in South Dakota. And the west will also be largely dry and hot with plenty of sunshine. Highs will be mostly in the 90s and 100s over the interior areas and 110s in parts of the desert southwest, but cooler in the northwest and along the coast. Additional thunderstorms will form again in Texas and Oklahoma today and continuing into southern Missouri, Arkansas, and the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, but the heavier rain should be localized and limit any widespread flash flooding concerns. The area in which thunderstorms could become heavier with more widespread flash flooding will be in the northeast as a weak frontal system moves into the area. This will activate thunderstorms, especially this afternoon and evening, with significant rainfall possible from as far north as Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, southward through the rest of New England, into southeast New York, eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and continuing into the Mid-Atlantic from Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, as well as northern North Carolina. These storms have the potential for flash flooding and some stronger winds. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Sunday marked the one-year anniversary of the assassination attempt against then-candidate Donald Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where a lone gunman breached security, firing 8 rounds from an assault rifle, killing one audience member, wounding 2 others, as one of the bullets grazed Trump's ear as he spoke at the podium. Associated Press photojournalist Evan Vucci recalls the assassination attempt. It was Vucci who took that iconic award-winning photo of Trump, his fist raised in the air, blood across his cheek, surrounded by Secret Service that so many saw across the world.
I was on the campaign trail covering then-candidate Donald Trump. It was a normal rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. I've done this 1,000 times before. It's like any other rally. He's going to come out. He's going to, do his dance, give a talking point, and he was going to leave. But this particular day, I was set up in the buffer area that's right in front of the lectern where we usually set up. I was about, 5-10 feet away from the candidate Trump. Over my left shoulder, I heard a series of pops, and I knew right away what it was. I knew right away by the rhythm of it, it was gunfire. And from that moment on, I knew that this was going to become the most important thing I've ever covered in my career. At first, I was set up on the left side of the stage, and I wasn't seeing anything because he was blocked by all the agents. And then eventually, he wanted to stand up, and they were going to stand him up, and I knew then that he was going to go off the other side of the stage. And so I ran to the other side to get a better vantage point, and he came to the front of to the microphone and started pumping his fists. And then he walked down those stairs and off to his vehicle. But that's where I made the photo that a lot of people have seen of him walking off with his hand raised in the air. But I knew exactly where he was going to go. Everyone wants to talk about the one image, right? But, I think what I'm most proud of that day is I work for the Associated Press, and we have a long line of stellar photojournalism. Joe Rosenthal with the flag raising in Iwo Jima, Napalm Girl in Vietnam. There's just dozens and dozens of history-telling photographs, and there is a particular standard that as a photographer you are expected to hold. And I'm most proud of not the images I made that day, but when it was my turn to hold that standard and do the job to the best of my ability and tell this story to the public and do my job as a journalist, I was able to do that. So as far as like the one image that people are calling iconic, that's actually none of my concern. What my concern is, like, when it was my turn and the chips were down, I did the job to the best of my ability, and I was able to hold the line and hold the standard, and I will forever be the most proud of that.
Associated Press photojournalist Evan Vucci. America in the Morning continues. It's the one scandal surrounding President Trump that, for now, doesn't seem to go away. The existence or not of a so-called clients list recovered from Jeffrey Epstein after he died. There are some widely differing opinions within Trump's administration. To bring us up to date, here's correspondent Rich Johnson.
The president posed the question during a cabinet meeting last week.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
And the talk continues as Epstein, the Wall Street financier and convicted sex offender who died in prison 6 years ago, was a hot topic on the talk shows and at a major conservative gathering.
Make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Megyn Kelly posed the question to the crowd at the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit in Tampa.
And I think that Donald Trump, he promised them, so he needs to do it. No matter who's on them, we need to release the Epstein file.
I think they're going to maybe give us pieces and maybe not the whole thing and think that that's going to suffice, and I don't think people are going to be quiet about it.
This is the first topic that all of us as Americans, not as Democrats, not as liberals, not as Republicans, are actually lining together and saying we all want the Epstein files.
A sampling of people attending the Turning Point conference, courtesy of CNN. The outrage among Trump supporters follows the Justice Department statement last week that it has no more files related to Epstein and nothing resembling a list of people to whom Epstein trafficked underage girls. That put Attorney General Pam Bondi in the eye of the storm, especially after she told Fox News earlier this year that just such a document, the so-called clients list, was sitting on her desk. So now that her agency says nothing to see here,
there's no chance, in my opinion, that Pam Bondi made this decision on her own.
No chance.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie says nobody should be letting President Trump off the hook when it comes to more possible information about Epstein the government may or may not have.
He benefited directly from it. He fueled it. He encouraged it. And he certainly didn't stop it.
Christie spoke Sunday on ABC's This Week. The president also hit back over the weekend using a lengthy social media post to tell people to let Bondi do her job and to urge supporters not to waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein. I'm Richard Johnson.
More questions than answers remain after a preliminary report into the recent Air India crash that killed over 260 people focused on what appeared to show confusion in the cockpit. Correspondent Julie Walker has this follow-up.
Fuel to the Air India plane that crashed last month was cut off moments before it went down, according to India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. The report also notes confusion by both pilots over the change to the fuel switch setting, causing a loss of engine thrust shortly after takeoff.
Well, shock, frankly, to see that the engine cut-off switches were selected to off only seconds after liftoff is absolutely bizarre.
Aviation Minister Kinjarapu Ram Mohan Naidu says they're not ready to make any conclusions.
We care for the welfare and the well-being of our pilots also. So let's not jump to any conclusions at this stage. Let us wait for the final report.
Former airline pilot and analyst Terry Tozer says flipping the fuel switch initiates a restart.
Unfortunately, the altitude was so low that the engines were only beginning to recover, and they didn't have enough time.
The London-bound plane crashed June 12th, killing at least 260, including 19 on the ground. I'm Julie Walker.
Trump administration sues California. Find out why when America in the Morning continues after these messages. An historic site in the Grand Canyon is destroyed in a massive wildfire that consumed parts of the region over the weekend. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Two separate wildfires, burning around 30 miles apart from one another to the north of the Grand Canyon, grew to more than 45,000 acres combined on Sunday. Destroyed in the fires, the historic Grand Canyon Lodge on the North Rim. It was the only hotel in the North Rim of the Grand Canyon and opened back in 1937. The lodge was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1987. It was a historic and a popular spot before it was evacuated over the threat of wildfire. Other areas in the region under evacuation orders, too. The White Sage Fire and the Dragon Bravo Fire are still burning today, with hundreds of firefighters now working to contain them. I'm Clayton Neville.
Questions are being raised as to the extent of the damage caused by an Iranian missile attack against a U.S. military base in the Middle East. A follow-up on that June assault from correspondent Haya Panjwani.
A Pentagon spokesperson says a Qatar airbase was hit with an Iranian ballistic missile during the June attack. The Pentagon acknowledged that Iranian defense systems hit Al Udeid airbase in Qatar during an attack in June after President Donald Trump downplayed the assault. The statement from the Pentagon follows the Associated Press publishing satellite images showing the damage from the attack. Spokesman Sean Parnell says the strike did minimal damage to equipment and structures on the base. He added that the Al Udeid Air Base remains fully operational and capable of conducting its mission. Satellite images show the geodesic dome visible at the Al Udeid Air Base just hours before the attack. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Settlements reached between Boeing and a man whose family died in an airline crash in Ethiopia. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
Boeing has reached a deal with a man whose wife and children were killed in a 2019 crash. The jury trial was to begin Monday to determine damages for Canadian Paul Njoroge. His wife and 3 children were taking Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 to Kenya, where they're from. The 737 MAX malfunctioned and plummeted to the ground, killing all 157 on board. Terms of the deal have not been disclosed. In 2021, Boeing accepted responsibility for the Ethiopia crash in an agreement that allowed victims' families to pursue individual claims in U.S. courts instead of their home countries. Citizens from 35 countries were killed. Several families of victims already have settled. I'm Mike Hempen.
The Trump administration has announced a new lawsuit against California, this one for adversely affecting egg prices. The story from correspondent Lisa Dwyer.
The Trump administration is suing the state of California to block animal welfare laws that they say unconstitutionally helped send egg prices soaring. The lawsuit challenges voter-approved measures requiring that all eggs sold in California must come from cage-free hens. Federal officials argue that the regulations burden egg producers nationwide because of California's vast economic influence. California officials and animal welfare advocates blame bird flu, not the laws, for past price spikes. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Prices rise, prices drop. Google's price is falling by as much as 70%, but don't get too excited. The price break is only for U.S. government contracts. With details in today's tech report, here's our Chuck Palm.
This move, first noted by the Financial Times, comes as President Trump is pushing hard to cut federal spending, and Google's jumping in to steal some thunder from Microsoft and their grip on government tech. A General Services Administration official said that Google's cloud discounts will likely match Oracle's recent blockbuster deal with a 75% cut on software licenses and a substantial discount on cloud services through November of this year. With this deal in play, you can expect Microsoft's Azure and Amazon's AWS to follow suit with similar price slashes coming soon. Google is no stranger to the government deals. Back in April, they offered a 71% discount on workspace apps, potentially saving the government $2 billion if adopted across all agencies. Expect more big tech cutthroat deals coming soon as the AI-powered cloud wars get hot over the summer. You can find more at chuckpalm.com.
Now 7 till, Monday Sports is in with our Robert Workman.
As we hit the baseball all-star break, all three National League division leaders won on Sunday. The Dodgers scored 3 in the 11th to upend the Giants 5-2. Dave Roberts on The View from the Top.
But I do think the break will help a lot of our guys. I think ultimately to win a series, to get to the break in first place, is certainly positive.
Cubs took the weekend series from the Yankees with a 4-1 win, long balls from Michael Busch and Dansby Swanson, and the Phillies edged the Padres 2-1 to salvage one game in San Diego. Meanwhile, all of the AL leaders went into the break on a down note. The Mariners got back-to-back jacks from Jorge Polanco and Cole Young to lead off the ninth and tame the first-place Tigers 8-4. Rangers ripped the Astros 5-1, and the A's bashed the Blue Jays 6-3, and the Brewers beat the Nationals 8-1. Last night, the opening round of the MLB draft, Washington chose high school shortstop Ethan Willits, number 1 overall. He's a switch hitter like his dad, Reggie, who played 6 years for the Angels, who then took Cal Santa Barbara right-hander Tyler Bremner with the second pick. The draft continues today. The Home Run Derby is tonight in Atlanta with the All-Star Game there on Tuesday night. At Wimbledon, top seed Jannik Sinner beat number 2 Carlos Alcaraz in 4 sets. That makes 7 consecutive Grand Slam wins for either Sinner or Alcaraz over the last 2 years, 4 for the Italian. The women's final Saturday saw Iga Swiatek blitz American Amanda Anisimova love and love. It's just the third time a major women's final has ended with that score, the first at the All England Club since 1911. And a major upset at the FIFA Club World Cup final in New Jersey. Chelsea rocked PSG 3-0 at MetLife Stadium. Man of the match Cole Palmer scored twice and added an assist to take down the European champions. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, why that morning cup of coffee might soon be costing you more after these messages. President Trump's announcement of new tariff rates for Canada, Mexico, and the European Union are rattling markets. Correspondent Donna Warder reports as a result, the EU is holding off on retaliatory tariffs on the U.S., hoping for a compromise.
Trump announced the tariffs on 2 of the U.S.'s biggest trade partners in letters posted to his social media account. In Trump's letter to Mexico, he acknowledges the country has been helpful in reducing the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. and migrants entering the U.S. illegally. But he says Mexico hasn't done enough to stop North America from turning into a, quote, narco-trafficking playground, end quote. The European Union was set to impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods on Monday, but European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says after receiving a letter from President Donald Trump announcing new tariffs of 30% on August 1st, the EU has decided to hold off on those countermeasures until August 1st.
We have always been very clear that we prefer a negotiated solution. This remains the case, and we will use the time that we have now till the 1st of August. And on the second track, since the very beginning, we have worked and now are ready to respond with countermeasures.
The EU is the United States' biggest trading partner and the world's largest trading bloc, negotiating trade deals on behalf of its 27 member countries. In his letter to the European Union, Trump says the U.S. trade deficit is a national security threat. I'm Donna Warder.
Superman soars to the top of the box office. America in the Morning's Kevin Carr covers entertainment.
It was a super weekend at the box office.
Buckle up!
Superman, James Gunn's reboot of the DC Universe, easily soared into first place with a heroic $122 million. This is the third highest opening of 2025 and bodes well for the franchise that has suffered multiple flops over the past few years.
Quit messing around!
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
Internationally, The Last Son of Krypton banked $95 million for a global opening weekend of $217 million.
This island was the research facility for the original Jurassic Park.
Last week's champ, Jurassic World Rebirth, fell a not-so-great 57% to $40 million. The Dino pick is playing softer than its predecessors, but the franchise still has some teeth left.
Formula One is a team sport. It always was.
Third place went to Apple's F1 with $13 million. The expensive $250 million racing film is performing better overseas, but it's still struggling to get into the black during its theatrical run.
Dad, I can't kill dragons.
Fourth and fifth place were for the kiddies, with How to Train Your Dragon adding $7.8 million, and Elio taking another $4 million.
And you're the leader of?
Earth? Yeah, that's everyone. It's the leader of Earth.
Finally, with $994 million worldwide, the early summer hit Lilo and Stitch should find its way into the billion-dollar club by the time you finish eating your lunch. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Monday, July 14th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.